This is Ronni Chern, your eLA, trying to help you with Assessment 2. I've entitled this one, Finding the Right Music for All Learners. It's a toolbox of strategies for effective teachers. So here are some tips for Assessment 2 for EDU 617. Here we go. First, I'd like to help you with an analogy. It's based on a storybook called Giraffes Can't Dance. And if you don't know this storybook, I think you should get it. It's a wonderful story about Gerald the giraffe. Imagine our class is like the group of jungle animals in the storybook, all of whom need to learn to dance. It's a skill. And if you want to hear the story, here's the YouTube clip. Please do listen to it. So what happens in this story? Well, there's a classroom of jungle kids. All of them have been asked to demonstrate their skill in dancing, a needed skill of movement according to the jungle curriculum. But one student named Gerald the giraffe is struggling. He doesn't know how to dance. His legs are wobbly and he can't figure it out. Most of all, he's dejected. So here we go. How can I, as a classroom teacher, help Gerald and all others like him achieve his goal? Well, think of your classroom and think about the task, in this case, to learn to use their legs and their arms to dance and to respond to the rhythms of music. I've noticed some things about the students in my class. I've made some observations. Some of them like to work in groups, others like to work alone. Many are at different developmental stages, and many are at different academic stages. So how can I help all of them? Well, let me think, let me reflect. Do I want a student-centered or teacher-centered approach, or perhaps a mixture of both? Do I want to use some direct instruction with this group? Do I want to use problem-based learning, differentiated learning, or personalized learning, or any combination? Am I being guided by certain theorists, such as Bruner, or Piaget, or Vygotsky? Or I have to think about where they are developmentally as children. What stages are they at? Are my jungle animals more like third graders or sixth graders or early primary? Do they speak my language or do some of them speak something else? When I've thought about all that, I think, okay, I've come to the conclusion, at least for me, that teachers need to find the right song for each child in concert with my beliefs. And that's the conclusion I've come to. It may not be your conclusion, but it's one that I've come to based on thinking about Gerald and my jungle animals. As the cricket says in the story, sometimes when you're different, you just need a different song. And that's my goal, is to find the songs for each child as long as they're in concert with my beliefs. So, what can I think about? What strategies can I use? How can I help Gerald find his song? How can I help him learn to meet his objectives, in this case, to learn to dance? What can I do to help all of the jungle students learn and achieve success? Well, for me, I think when you help children find the music that they love, they can all be successful. What does this have to do with Assessment 2? Well, that analogy is making you reflect on the key questions that underpin this task. You need to write an essay of 2,000 words, plus or minus 10%. And you have to ask yourself, all right, so what do I need as a classroom teacher in terms of my strategies? What's my thesis? I need to think about the range of teaching strategies. I need to figure out in my own mind, why might I use them? Or why not? I need to discuss, well, how do these connect to theories? What theory has driven these various strategies, and do I like those theories? Do I think that they're the best theories to help me as a classroom teacher? And what would it look like in my own classroom? Most of all, I've got to think about the kids. What stages are they at? What are their needs? And I've got to think about my own beliefs. What conclusions have I come to based on my own experiences, on my readings, on my research? What have I decided? Well, to answer this particular assessment, I think the best thing to do is to make a plan. So how do I write all of this in an essay? Well, first I want to think about what it is I want to say. Do I want to have a classroom where kids are from indigenous cultures or some ESL? Do I want some fast learners and slower learners? And I got to think about what age or stage do I want to think about them? And what must they learn according to the Australian curriculum? I have an image in my mind of this classroom or a real classroom that you're currently in. So again, I'm trying to help myself visualize a real world experience. And then I need to come to a conclusion, what you believe. For me, I believe teachers need a range of teaching strategies to meet the needs of multicultural learners in a 21st century classroom. What is it that you believe and why? And if I want to prove this, I need to make sure that I have some clear topic sentences or claims, and I have some evidence, both from my readings and my own research and even personal experiences. And I want to make sure that I prove the things that I say. So for example, I might consider direct instruction for skills for a certain group of students based on certain theories such as behaviorism, or I want to explain that. I want to make sure that I include some developmental stages in my discussion of why that would work, why direct instruction might be useful, and I do want to give my sources. Those are called in-text citations. I also want to connect it to my own experiences. Perhaps I found behaviorism confining, everybody having to do the same thing at the same time, or maybe I felt that I learned a lot. I want to make sure I connect what I'm doing, my own background and beliefs, and why, based on my research and scholarship. So for example, I personally don't mind a noisy classroom. Others might, and therefore I like constructivism. I think it's fun to help kids connect their own background and come up together in a cooperative learning group with ideas. But for some of my ESL students, I might not necessarily choose constructivism. I might choose, again, a different strategy, and I want to explain why and explain what research has helped me understand that. Or, for me, differentiation has really been the source of my success. I want to show how it connects to some of my theories, and I want to help me explain how it can address the needs of a variety of learners. So I put this all together in an essay, and I remember that an essay has a very precise structure. I know that I need an introduction, and I want to end my first paragraph with a thesis statement, or a plan, or something to help my readers see where I'm going. So for me, in my classroom, I want to have myself prepared with a range of strategies, okay, so I can address a range of learners. I want to have a toolbox with lots of ideas in there, and then I want to make sure that I think about different cultural backgrounds. I want to think about their languages. I want to think about whether they have any particular needs, whether they are autistic or gifted. I want to think about all that, and in my classroom, I want to be sure I have a range of strategies to meet all learners' needs. So what do I want to talk about? Well, I want to make sure I link each of my paragraphs because it's an essay called Transitions. So I may want to talk about in my second paragraph one of the strategies that I might want to use, a student-centered approach, maybe, for example, an inquiry project or problem-based learning based on a particular theory that I want to explain. And I want to give my source. And I want to make sure that I show how this links to my own background and my own beliefs, how I like doing this and I think others do. For example, when I went to school, we created a diagram. Actually, we created a model, okay, of our DNA. And I thought, wow, I understand now all the links that go together. How would that help me understand? Well, how might it help them? So if I have a class of, say, grade 2 students and looking at the ACURA program, what would I need? What particular subject area I might be thinking about, which relates to their stage of development? I want to think what I would do. How could I suggest that they learn a particular benchmark or a particular item? So for another paragraph, I want to show perhaps some contrast, maybe a different age or a different need. So some basic skills such as multiplication, I might use a teacher-centered approach rather than a student-centered approach, maybe such as direct instruction. But I want to explain what that means and what theory it's based on and why I would choose it and when. So my essay is really an argument. I'm discussing what I believe and why. So what does it look like? Here it is. It's about 2,000 words, and I do, of course, have to introduce my paper and arrive at my thesis. And then I want to make sure in each of my paragraphs that I touch upon some strategies, some theories, perhaps a stage of development, making sure I include my own beliefs, and last, some examples, so I can really evaluate some pros and cons. I might talk about direct instruction, or inquiry, or differentiation, or some personalization, or a range of other ideas. I want to make sure that I end, however, with a conclusion, that my paper sort of shows the reader, that's going to be me, what it is you believe, and therefore I can walk away saying, yep, I understand how you envision your own classroom and how you think about the strategies that you might need to teach children. So, as you look at your own paper, do go back and reflect on the task. Have you considered when you are writing your own paper, have you thought about who it is you're talking about and what it is you're trying to do? Most importantly, have you spent some time thinking about the strategies? Which one will you use? What features does it have and its strengths and limits? Have you thought about what's driving you? What theories are connected to those strategies? And have you thought about your own experiences, even your own personality, your own background and beliefs? And some examples can you give, either from your own classroom or those you can imagine? And last, you say, well, this might not work. Some challenges you either have seen being overcome, or you can envision, or you still say, wow, those are ones we need to address. Before you hand in your paper, make sure you've considered all of this so that the task addresses the rubric, and that's what you should be looking at as you write. Look carefully at that rubric to make sure that you target all of the elements in your paper to achieve the best results. References are very important, both in your paper and in your reference page. Please make sure that you follow APA guidelines, that you review a Swinburne sample reference list if you need some help. Make sure that you're using lots of resources and perhaps some of the learning materials. That would be great. Most importantly, provide evidence to prove your claim backed up by scholarship using some in-text citations within the paper. And check that reference list called Works Cited. That means the works that you've actually used in the paper, not a bibliography. That means everything you've looked at. Works cited. So, when you start to worry, well, when I worry, I think of what my mother told me. And it says, keep your chin up. No one expected you to save the world. Otherwise, you've been born wearing a cape and tights. Do the best you can, and I know your essay is going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be you. And I'm really looking forward to reading it. So, please submit it on or before the 16th of May, 2016 at 9 a.m. It will go in to turn it in, and again, it will have a check on there to see it's called an originality report to make sure you're using your resources properly. And again, please check that yourself. So submit on time so I can have a chance to read it and give it some reflection and comment for you. Between now and then, contact me with any questions. Use the discussion board, email, stay in touch. This is a team. Remember, we do this together. Have a great day.